Hey everyone, this is Tim Fox again, and I'm here to talk to you today about getting started with machine learning in Python. Video 4, using Jupyter Notebooks. So a little bit about me. I'm Tim Fox, there's my email. I'm a consultant in scalable machine learning, data science, big data, deep learning. I work as an open source contributor and do training in all of these areas. All right, so why do we use Jupyter Notebooks? Well, it allows us to examine code in an interactive environment, run and see results quickly, and see our plots and visualizations inline, and mixed code with text and documents using Markdown. So basically, text plus code plus visualizations equals Jupyter Notebooks. Now, we don't typically use Jupyter to help develop Python applications. And I just wanted to make that clear because most of our examples for this are going to be within Jupyter Notebooks. And it makes a great learning tool and a place to showcase code, but not necessarily how I would develop code, especially applications of Python. For that, we might want to use a text editor or an IDE. And so some common text editors are things like Sublime Text or Atom or Vim or Emacs, and IDEs would be things like Spider or Visual Studio Code, both of which can be included in Anaconda. So we'll talk about those later. For now, I just want to introduce Jupyter Notebooks, and I'm going to go and we'll go to Anaconda Navigator first. So go ahead and bring that up if you don't already have that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the main page, and you see we have various options here. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to find Jupyter Notebook, and we'll go ahead and click Launch button. So what's going to happen is that Anaconda Navigator is going to go ahead and launch Jupyter Notebook. It's actually going to bring up a command line prompt. Notice here on Mac, it actually brought this up as a terminal. And what it's going to do basically is just run Jupyter Notebook at the command line. And as a matter of fact, we can pretty easily do that ourselves from the command line by just opening up a command prompt and then typing in Jupyter space notebook, like that. But if we were going to do that on Windows, we would probably want to do that on an Anaconda command prompt, which you can get from your Start menu. But this works for us. So let's go ahead and find our Getting Started directory in our home directory. If you're like me, you probably have a lot of different directories in your home directory, but here it is, Getting Started Python ML. And in that, actually, we have several directories, and there may be more by the time you see clone this, but I put in a notebook for us to test this. Go to 01 install, and then here we have one called 01 Learning Notebooks. So let's go ahead and click on this. And what we'll see here is we're going to see here and see this example of a Jupyter Notebook. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear all of my current outputs. And let's go ahead and talk about how we run through a Jupyter Notebook. So this cell here, this first cell, is actually just text. Technically, it's actually Markdown. So Markdown is a special kind of text that is pretty cool. You can look it up. It's actually a way we can make text that looks both good as plain text, but as well can be rendered to give it, some effects like headings and bold and other things along those lines. So a little bit like a very lightweight version of HTML. So that's a Markdown block. Now, if I click on one block here, this is a code block. And as a code block, it's going to have some Python 3 code. And as a matter of fact, you can look here and notice that my notebook here is a Python 3 notebook. So if I go ahead and I hit the play button here, play. All right, and then look here, notice that I have an output. Now, we're going to be covering a little about Python in a future video, but in this case, we are getting the output of that Python statement. So in Python, most statements return an output, and in fact, we're saying A equals 1, and A itself gets 1. So now, another way for me to do that instead of hitting the play button, which is a little bit cumbersome sometimes, is I can just hit Shift-Enter, and Shift-Enter will have the same effect there. Great. So now Jupyter will always return the return value of the last statement. to the response. However, I can print anything I want out to my notebook using the print command. So when I go ahead and hit play on this, or Shift Enter if you prefer, notice here when I said hello world, it prints out hello world. So far, so good. Now, I can also do this to visualize my plots as well. So in Python, we have a library called matplotlib that we use a lot for plotting. And in ordinary Python applications, this is going to show in a pop-up window. But here in Jupyter, we can actually see this show up inline in the notebook. So if I hit play on this, then you can see that it shows my plot inline right here. See that? Pretty cool. Let's look at what this is. So I'm going to use matplotlib, and in this case, I'm just going to do a plot will just give me x and y. So I'm taking x here. X is going to be a series of data here, and I am going to plot the sine of the square of that. So that's what gives me this sine wave. In fact, I'm adding a title here. So pretty cool. We'll be doing a lot more with this kind of thing in notebooks in the future. But I wanted to illustrate that. So now that I'm done with this, I can go ahead and just close my Jupyter notebook, and then I'll be done. Now, if you want to go ahead and create your own Jupyter notebook, you can definitely do that. So go ahead and say new and say Python 3. And now we have a notebook. Let me go ahead and just rename this here. And I'm going to call it, my first notebook. And we can type in some Python code. So for example, I can say a equals 1, a, as I said before, and now I can do a my list equals and then I can do my list 0 cat. Great. Now I can also add in new cells if I want by just hitting a plus button. It adds a new cell. And for example, I can do a markdown cell too. So for example, I can say and I can go ahead, that's my markdown, make sure it's a markdown block, hit play, and there we go. I can see my markdown text there, and notice we don't run the markdown text per se. So you can see how to go ahead and create a notebook yourself, and then go ahead and just save that notebook, and then quit, and then you'll be done. All right, so we just covered how to use Jupyter, how to create our own notebooks and play my notebooks here. And in the next notebook, in the next video, we're going to be doing some further notebooks, and we're going to be getting a little bit more into doing things with Python. Thank you very much.